CARISSA LAWLOR is a seasoned stylist of over a decade and owner of Home Salon, a Washington, D.C. area salon, here to dive into what exactly it takes to open a salon. Welcome back to the Hairdresser Strong Show. I'm your host, Robert Hughes, and I'm back here with CARISSA LAWLOR, and we're going to talk about the steps to opening a salon, focusing on the sexy and not so sexy details. Hello, CARISSA. How are you today?
Hi, good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on the show. This topic is something that I feel like we got a big ask for some more information and details. The details are hazy, and a lot of people find themselves in trial by fire. How was the process of opening a salon for you?
Yeah, thanks for asking. There's a lot of steps, and organization is really important during that. There was a lot to do, a lot of things that I didn't really know ahead of time that I needed to do. So it really was just taking one step and then the next step, and really reaching out and asking questions when I really needed a little bit more guidance. So yes.
So what was the first step? Was it picking your furniture and your paint colors?
No,
No, I didn't think so.
No, definitely not the first step.
What was the first step? Just start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, and sorry, real quick, anybody who didn't watch CARISSA's first episode where you learned about her journey, I highly recommend it, because if you're not quite at the point where you want to open up a salon, then I think it's very important for you to hear this story and know that it's okay that you don't have to have your full plan. And once you kind of get to the point where you're ready to open a salon and you know that's what you want to do, that's what you're listening to today. So, all right. So yes, sorry, go ahead. And where did you tell us about the start?
Yeah. So for me, the start was really knowing what I wanted this salon to feel like. And so really just having a vision of the culture that I wanted to create, and the feeling that I wanted to have, and what I wanted to establish for the stylists and also the clients. So I think for me, that was step one. The next step was really to determine where I wanted to be and like what location. So I was interested in staying close by to where I was styling in my salon suite. And I wanted to make sure I was really close to there, but I wanted to be accessible to all my clients, and just in a really good location, maybe something that wasn't oversaturated, in a location that really needed our services. So, kind of thinking about where I wanted to be was really step one. And then obviously I needed to, in order to even look at locations, I needed to work with a realtor. So I found a realtor who specialized in commercial real estate. And with her, I started to look at different spaces that were available, and to see, really just kind of what was out there, and like how much space was I going to need? How much could I afford? So those were just like the first two steps
Okay. Sorry, I want to jump in here.
Yeah.
So you started off with like the more like sexy, fun, like your dream, your concept, and your location. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then once you kind of once you're like, I know I want to open a salon, and this is my concept, this is kind of my idea, this is what I want to do. This is the vibes I want. So like now you're kind of already like mentally, psychologically, emotionally, you're already a salon owner. Now you just don't have a salon. So now you're like, well, I know the location, and I'm assuming that's based on access to your current clientele. Would you say that?
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to stay really close to where my current clientele was, as well as make sure that I was in a good space to receive new clients. And and also just, I didn't want to be too saturated in a space that was like too saturated with other salons.
Got it. Okay. So that's really awesome. That's some really good details to know. And okay, so once you got there, did you like network to find your commercial real estate agent, or did you just like look up online? How did you find your person?
Yeah, I did some networking and just started asking for some referrals, and did a little research of who had good reviews and who I spoke with a couple people over the phone, and it really was who I connected with the best. I wanted the person who I was going to work with to be excited with me for what I was trying to do.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then did you have to provide them with any financial information in order to get the process started?
No, not necessarily with the realtor, but about the time that I started working with the realtor, I did start working with a bank. And so that's where all the finances started to come into play because, I had a big dream, but I had to pay for it.
Right, right. So so you went to your bank, I'm assuming?
So the realtor, a lot of the commercial real estate realtors they have a lot of connections. So, I did ask the realtor, hey, do you have any connections in any of these industries that I'm going to need? And so she did provide me with a list of like loan officers that she had worked with, contractors, architects, which we can get into. But she did connect me with a loan officer that she knew was being super helpful at the time. And so I called them up and we spoke over the phone and kind of got the process started of how to get a small business loan through the SBA and, going through how much money I was going to need for this space, and also how much I was going to be able to provide for by myself.
Gotcha. So, all right, cool. That's great. So so once you go through those steps, you got the real estate agent, they helped you find the money person, the loan officer, they helped you figure out how much you can afford, like how much space you could afford based on what you had to bring to the table, plus what you could get as a loan. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. So now you know what you can afford. So now I guess is that when the shopping begins for places based on those numbers? Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, it kind of happened. Someone told me this when I actually talked to a couple salon owners as I just started to get into the process, because I needed to know what were the steps. And someone told me everything happens at once, which didn't make sense to me, because I'm like, well, how can everything happen at once if one thing depends on the other thing? And right. It does actually kind of work that way. So in order to know how much money I needed to also have a space in mind, a very specific space. So I needed to know, what does this space need? Does it need plumbing? Does it need electrical? Like, what does it need and how much is that going to cost me? I was lucky to end up with a space that was a salon prior. It had shut down during COVID and was no longer going to be open. So I was very lucky in that sense that it had a lot, but I was looking at spaces that were completely raw. There was no walls, no bathrooms, anything. So those two spaces were going to cost a completely different amount of money. And in order for me to know how much those were going to cost, I also needed to bring in a contractor, an architect, to look at the spaces and give me an estimate. So it does all kind of work at the same time. You're working with the realtor, the realtor connected me with a couple of different architects that I interviewed. They connected me with a couple of contracting companies, which I interviewed. And, then you invite them into the space for them to kind of get an initial estimate, and the numbers that they provide you with, that's what you end up taking into the bank as like an initial request for your small business loan.
Gotcha. All right. Cool. Yes. I love that. Thank you so much. I feel like that kind of helps some things out. I mean, seems like there's so much in there as well. So let's kind of just keep moving on. So so you're in this process, this is where you're at, then kind of tell us what goes on, wherever, what's next.
So the getting the business loan, I think, is what took the longest amount of time. You have to provide a business plan. So in the business plan, you really have to be very specific about the type of business you're opening, how's it going, what's the finances, like what are you estimating that you're going to be bringing in year 1 through year 5. So it is a lot of estimating, like, are you going to have, what are your expenses going to be? Are you going to have staff? What is that staff going to be? How much money is the staff going to be bringing in? You know, there's a lot that goes into the business plan. And I believe that SBA does give you a business plan blueprint online. If you can go on that for free. And so you have to provide the business plan and a cash flow to the bank. So those are 2 things that are really big that you need to do as well. And if you don't know how to do it, you know, again, like finding maybe previous salon owners that can help you, or maybe someone who's in the finance industry that can help you kind of work out those finances, as finances weren't necessarily my forte. So I definitely needed some guidance. Yeah. So then we were also, I was working with the realtor to get the lease approved. So really getting the lease, what also took at least 6 months. Going back and forth on what the lease was going to be and the agreement, what the contract was going to say. It took a long time. And I worked with a lawyer who was going through the lease and making changes, making sure that she was advocating like for me was really important. So there was a lot, there was kind of like a little bit of a dead space where things were moving, but not in the fun way. It was more really just trying to get everything, you know, buttoned up financially. And then also getting the lease agreement, you know, that did take a long time.
So you had a loan officer, you had a real estate agent, commercial real estate agent, you worked with the SBA, and so, and the lawyer and a lawyer, is the lawyer a completely separate out, not part of the SBA?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, the lawyer was just working for me to make sure that all my contracts and my lease agreement was serving me the best.
Nice. That's so good. That's I don't feel like not a lot of people I've talked about hiring a lawyer, which makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, cool. So all this stuff is working. It's kind of mostly happening in the background. And so what are you doing in the middle of all this?
Yeah, well, I was coming out of COVID shutdown, working 6 days a week, 12 to 14 hours a day. Yeah. So we were taking care of our clients that hadn't seen us in a couple months, and yeah, that's how we did it.
Nice.
So, you know, but besides that, so while I was waiting for the SBA loan to be approved and for the lease agreements to go back and forth between the 2 lawyers that were working on it, at that point, I started focusing on like, okay, we have a salon, it opens, but like, how does it function? You know, like creating the systems that are going to live inside that salon, creating the culture, creating like, you know, what is it that we want to feel? What do we want the clients to feel? So really just honing in on every single thing that happens inside the salon and planning that ahead of time so I can properly train you know, incoming stylists and incoming assistants, or, you know, any supportive staff that comes in. I have a very clear vision of how to make this experience and this culture like what I want it to be. Okay,
so I feel like this is another big part, other than the part that we just went through, which is massive, which I feel like nobody really talks about. You're starting to talk about things that people kind of glaze over in my experience a little bit, these systems. I mean, I'm assuming like you're talking about everything from like, how do you greet a customer? Where do you sit them? And then do you walk back and tell the stylist they're there, or is a stylist supposed to come and get them, or that whole thing? Is that, yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So go ahead. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's exactly right. We literally have a systems handbook that literally goes through exactly what you're saying, like how to greet a client, when we're doing laundry. We also recycle 95% of all of our use in the salon. So how do we do that? Where does it go? How do we send it away? So yes, we have a whole system handbook of, so it's just very clear and people can know exactly what needs to happen when.
Nice. That's amazing.
And along with that, we also created like an employee handbook, which is also really important in, I think that really helped me to define what I wanted to give to my employees and to the company and what our company stood for, as well as like just making a very clear path for all incoming stylists on how to be successful. So there definitely was a lot of like culture planning, as well as, financial planning.
And when you're putting these systems together and these handbooks, did you like start off with a template? Did you do like find somebody else's and then kind of use that and work with any, like, tell us a little bit about how you go, or did you just start from scratch with a blank page?
Yeah. So actually, like I said, I had spoken with a couple of salon owners as I started this journey, and someone mentioned to me this company called Strategies. And when she mentioned it to me, it just was exactly what I knew, that's what I wanted for my salon. And so there's a company called Strategies, and they partner with beauty business industry professionals and like so spas, salons, and they really help guide them and mentor them through making their salons or spas successful, like financially. Maybe they're help them like define their culture. So they have a lot of training available. I work with a mentor one-on-one throughout the month, and I've been working with them since the very beginning with really developing all of these systems and developing like a career path for the stylists. So they really helped guide me to really like defining these.
Nice. Okay, cool. All right. I love that. So yeah, go out and make sure you're getting help from people. And is this and maybe this is TMI, but like, is this a pretty capital intensive startup process?
I'm sorry?
Was this a pretty capital intensive startup process? Like, did it cost quite a bit of money for you to kind of get this thing off other than the construction and the lease and all that stuff?
Yeah, it definitely, I had a little bit of an idea. And again, I did ask some people in the industry, like what they had paid or give me an estimate, just so I kind of had a little bit of an idea. And so I knew what I was getting into. I was lucky enough that my finances were in order, that I did get approved for the loan that I needed, but I also had money saved that the SBA does require that you put a down payment on the loan. And so I had saved a lot of money to be able to do that. So it definitely did. I was also lucky that I was coming into a salon that was, had the bathrooms and the plumbing and electrical. So it wasn't as much as starting from a raw space, but yes, it definitely did add up quickly.
Okay, cool. So I guess in there might be some advice for people kind of getting started on their career. It sounds like, get your finances in order early, be organized early. So that way you never know if you find yourself in the same position that Carissa was in, where she just finds herself in this natural progression towards becoming a salon owner. She didn't have to like scramble and be like, oh my gosh, where am I going to get all this money from? And like feeling the burden, the financial burden, if you, for, 7, 8+ years, you were working and, be smart about your money through your career from day one. Would you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that sounds about right. Yeah, it definitely was,
Okay.
saving for your future, no matter what your future is. And whether it's opening a salon or a suite, or maybe it's even just, you know, taking amazing classes, you know, so
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah. Cause that's expensive too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely, you know, making sure that you're, if you're thinking about opening a salon, you know, having good credit is really important. Having savings is really important. If you have people that are available to you financially, you know, that's great. That wasn't the position that I was in. So it was 100% on my own. And so I did have the stability in my finances that I was able to get what I needed.
I love that. I'm so happy to hear that. And I definitely hope people listening and watching, especially those that are kind of still earlier on and not really quite there yet, because it's really like good for you. If you're already there closely, then there's some, you really got to get on top of that. Okay, so we'll continue. And so where you gonna get all this whole crew of your, it's like your startup team basically. And so you get this team together, you're making these investments, and in your downtime while these things are happening in the background, you're also well, I guess part of your startup team is you're building your systems, you're building your handbook. And so where are you at now? Like, let's go from like kind of that point to like opening the doors.
Yeah. So I did some, you know, we found some staff, some team members to join our team. We are a team-based salon, so we do things a little differently than what people are used to, and which I think is really special. And it really allowed me to focus on what was important and the type of person that was important to like bring into the company. And they really had to align with what we were trying to build. And so having that clear vision was important. So so we did a lot of interviews and brought on a team. And there's been some new additions to the team. And so right now we are 2 stylists, myself and Amy, who was my assistant, I guess, 2 years ago, and now she's a stylist. And we have a couple of salon assistants, and we are growing rapidly.
I don't want to like I don't I want to stay on the steps to opening a salon, but you mentioned a team-based model, and I would like you, could you just give us a little bit, because I'm sure someone listening might have been like, well, I want to know what she means by that. So what do you
Just
mean by
really
that?
quickly, sure. So the team-based model is basically, for me, what that means is that everyone in the salon is collaborating on everything that happens in the salon. So all of our guests are welcome and invited to have an experience with anyone in the salon. So we share guests, and it's all based on, when the client needs to come in, the availability of the stylist. And, if someone is requested, that's wonderful. But the environment that it creates is that everyone works as a team. We all help each other out. We all clean the salon. We all check in, check out. We answer the phones. We literally are collaborating on every single thing that happens inside of that salon. So for me, it just feels so seamless and super positive, and the clients can really see it.
That's amazing. I love that. Okay, cool. So you kind of round up some teammates and to get the party started on day one. So how many stylists did you open with on day one?
So day one was just me.
Okay.
Yes, because of COVID, our other stylist, her journey in getting her license was extended a little bit. So she was not licensed by the time we opened, unfortunately. So it was just me styling for about 3 months. So not ideal, but we made it through. And because I had such a supportive staff, the only way I was able to do it was because of them. They really like supported the whole experience with the clients and did everything else while I was behind the chair.
Gotcha. So, just kind of like keep it real. Well, how was that? Like, how was opening with kind of being the only stylist? You know, was that stressful, or were you not really worried about it?
Yeah, no, it was definitely, it was a little stressful for sure. But again, because I had done my finances and I knew exactly how much money I needed to make to pay the bills and to pay my staff, I knew, okay, this is how much money I need to make, and this is what it's going to take to get that done. And so, although it was definitely stressful and I worked a little bit more than I would have liked to during that time, we have hit every single goal that we've had since we opened.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, so again, it was really because I had such a supportive staff behind me that we were able to be successful in that.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on that. That's assume something to definitely be proud of. Okay, cool. Well, I mean, this has been really exciting. Is there any bits of information that maybe we either didn't touch on or didn't talk enough about that you feel like we should kind of address in this process, the starting up process and opening the doors?
I don't know. I mean, I mean, we could really dive into every single one of those points, but I think it feels like a really good overview. And no, I think this is a good
Okay.
thing.
I did have one question. So you mentioned working with somebody and like having an idea for what your concept, and then you also talked about working with somebody who helps salons figure out their culture. If someone is like figuring out how to do that, I feel like there are stylists / salon owners / entrepreneurs who they embody like so much of the culture, and by them being there, they're kind of creating the space, but like and that culture. But like, is there any sort of like documentation, planning, or anything like that you did or do on in terms of culture, or like what pieces tie into that?
Yeah. So again, I did do some planning with strategies, and where it really was more like writing out my vision.
Okay.
And I think for me, it started with writing out the experience that I wanted the client to have in our salon, and everything
Okay.
kind of came out from that point. And so it was kind of like, I don't want to say a vision board, but it was like a vision journal, essentially, just to kind of lay everything out and then really look at it and start to dive into how are you going to make that experience or that goal happen, all the way down from, how do you greet the person, or how are we offering services, or how are we confirming people. So there, everything kind of came from that point, and just starting to plan on like, how is this going to be successful in the salon? How do I want to make this vision come to life? Like you said, the leader can hopefully the leader embodies everything that you want to create. And I think that actually really is a good point, is that this journey has really humbled me a lot to show me that I need to really embody everything that I want for my staff, for my team, for the clients, for the space. And really holding myself accountable is that really is important. And knowing that like I'm doing all the things that I want this space to become, and want how I want the staff to also be in the salon. So finding the right people that really just fit in and align with what it is that you're trying to create, and is really important.
All right. This is great. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And thank you for getting into the details. I really appreciate the details. I'm
Yes.
all about details.
Yes, absolutely. And if anyone has any questions on any of those specific details, I'm happy to dive deeper into it. So.
Okay, cool. That's great. Well, before we wrap it up, is there any like final comments, words of advice, or anything that you'd like to say?
I think just be positive and, really just believe in yourself. And if you have something that you want to do in life, don't stop. Just really believe in yourself and you can do it. So I think it's really important to really to be happy in life and to create what you want.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again so much for coming on the show. And I'd definitely love to get you back on another time to hear you dive into that business model of yours. It sounds very interesting. But until then, have a great rest of your week. And I'll be talking to you soon.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Awesome. So, and if you're listening on podcast, please give us a rating. 5 stars is preferable. Please follow us. Please, if you're watching on YouTube or Instagram, please follow or subscribe. It helps support the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. We appreciate your feedback. So leave a comment below. And if you're interested in any of this information that was on, we'll make sure to leave information in the description below so you can not only reach out to Carissa, but also have access to some of the things she brought up. All right. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.